As Pure as Light by Pastor E.A Adeboye is a spiritually insightful book that explores the theme of purity from a divine perspective. The author, drawing from biblical principles, teachings of Christ, and personal revelation, explains that true purity is foundational to the Christian life and is a prerequisite for experiencing God's glory, power, and presence. The book calls believers to walk in holiness, maintain spiritual integrity, and shine as lights in a morally dark world. 1. Introduction to Purity as Light. Pastor Adeboye opens the book by establishing the correlation between purity and light. He references scriptures such as Matthew 5:14-16, stating that believers are the light of the world. For this light to shine effectively, purity must be preserved. Just as a lamp cannot shine clearly when covered in soot, a believer cannot reflect God without holiness. 2. The nature of light. Light represents clarity, truth, and righteousness. God himself is light, for John 1:5, and anyone who walks with him must also walk in the light. The author explains that light exposes darkness and illuminates the path of righteousness, thus making purity indispensable in the life of a believer. 3. The purity of Christ. Pastor Adeboye highlights the life of Jesus as the ultimate model of purity. Christ was without sin, Hebrews 4:15. He was a light in a dark world, and his life brought transformation wherever he went. The believer is called not only to follow Christ, but to become like him in purity and character. 4. The call to holiness. This chapter outlines the biblical mandate for holiness. Be ye holy, for I am holy. 1 Peter 1:16. Holiness is not optional but a divine requirement. Adeboye explains that holiness is not just about avoiding sin, but about pursuing righteousness with sincerity and commitment. 5. Hindrances to purity. The book identifies several obstacles that can dim a believer's light. Sin and compromise. Even small compromises can erode spiritual integrity. Worldliness. A life entangled with the values of the world is inconsistent with God's standard. Unforgiveness and bitterness. These pollute the heart and hinder divine flow. Lack of intimacy with God. Purity is sustained by staying close to the source of light. 6. Practical steps to maintaining purity. Pastor Adeboye offers practical guidance on living a life that is as pure as light. Daily fellowship with God through prayer and the Word. Guarding the heart against impure thoughts and motives. Proverbs 4:23. Accountability and fellowship with other believers to strengthen one's walk. Fasting and consecration, which help to align the soul with God's will. 7. The rewards of purity. The book emphasizes that purity is not only spiritually beneficial, but also brings tangible blessings, divine presence and favor. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew 5:8. Power in ministry. Purity unlocks the anointing and supernatural manifestations. Peace and joy. A pure heart is free from guilt and condemnation. Heavenly reward. Purity prepares the believer for eternal glory. 8. Shining in a dark world. The final chapters stress the urgency for believers to shine brightly. In a world filled with corruption, moral decay, and compromise, only those who are pure can be effective witnesses for Christ. The believer's purity is not just for personal sanctification but for impact, to draw others to Christ by being different. 9. Consecration and daily renewal. Pastor Adeboye concludes by encouraging believers to rededicate their lives daily, asking God to cleanse, purify, and refine them like gold. He emphasizes the need for constant self-examination and the willingness to undergo divine pruning so that one's light can shine ever brighter. Conclusion. As Pure as Light is a compelling and challenging book that urges believers to uphold God's standard of holiness in an impure world. Pastor Adeboye calls for a return to consecration, integrity, and unwavering devotion to Christ. The purity of a Christian is not just a private virtue, it is the key to effective ministry, divine favor, and eternal reward. The book is a clarion call to become truly as pure as light, in a world that desperately needs the illumination of godly lives. For more insightful and faith-lifting audiobooks, do well to like and subscribe to this channel. Be well sure you will be enlightened and empowered by each audiobook you listen to.